Hello again and welcome to another edition of Shed Talk, and in this video we're going to have our monthly update on how the young birds in the nappy flight are doing. And what I will try to do is to put them in an order in terms of the way I see them. There are a few that I'm a bit and ahhing about, so and I'll talk about that when we look at the young birds. But before we do that, we're going to have a look at a couple of new pairs, which is what we'll crack on with now. As always though, if you do enjoy the videos, don't forget to hit the like button, and please do subscribe. All the subscriptions do help the channel, and of course if you want early notifications, then do hit the bell and you will get them. So as I say, we're going to have a quick look at a couple of breeding pairs, a couple of new breeding pairs that I've just put down before we run through the young birds. So let's do that now then, shall we? So this is the first of the two new breeding pairs. Both these birds have been in the breeding cage before, but with different partners. The cockbird on the left is currently my favourite bird in the shed. Did produce a couple of offspring with another bird earlier on in the year. He's now been out of the breeding cage for best part of 2 months, and is showing signs in the flight that he wants to go down again. He was bouncing around and chatting up lots and lots of the hens. There's a better view of him that you can see there. So I thought I would put him down again. The hen that you can see here, she took a fancy to this bird, to the cockbird, in the stock cage. When I split her from her partner, she chased him all over the place. So I'm hoping that when I put them in the breeding cage together, it won't take them too long to get to know each other and to go straight or to go down. So they're clearly compatible. She likes him. He did show some interest in her once after she had been following him around for a bit. So yeah, touch wood. We could get some offspring off of this pair. So that's the first pair then, that is, or the first of the new pairs that are going to go down. So here is the second of the new pairs. Once again, the cockbird on the left, this time I got that correct, has been in the breeding cage. You may remember he had a partner that she just didn't lay. She spent the whole time in the nest box, but never laid. So I decided to give him a new hen. His tail is really scruffy at the moment. He normally looks a lot better than this from the so below the perch, but looking very scruffy at the moment. So he is a really long bird, as you can see as we close in on him. So very long, a little bit narrow at the top of the head, but has a really nice deep mask, and when he does decide to blow, has quite a nice blow across the top of the head, but lacks a little bit around the back of the neck and around there, and a bit of width. The hen, as you can see, is quite a stocky bird, quite a bit smaller than he is, or shorter than he is, but has really nice width, and a really nice wide face on her, and plenty around the back of the neck. So I'm hoping these two birds will complement each other, that we'll get the hen will put a little bit of size in terms of width and overall structure onto him, and he'll put a bit of length and style onto her. So that's my plan with this pair. She's not been in the breeding cage before, so she's a maiden hen, but seems to be just coming into breeding condition. So I'm hoping it won't take her too long to start investigating the nest box and to come into full breeding condition. So yeah, so this is the second of the new pairs. We'll have to see how we get on with those. Well, we've looked at the two new pairs. Let's now take a look at those young birds. So this is the first of the young birds that we're going to look at, this cinnamon sky blue. And from my point, as I said, I was going to put these in some sort of order. From my point of view, this is the my least favourite of all of the chicks. And I'm sure those of you that have been watching the videos for a little while are aware of that. He has actually grown a fair bit since the last video. Still not to such an extent that he's going to be a keeper for me, but he's certainly not as bad as I thought he was going to be. He has a reasonable style about him. At the moment he's not carrying his wings very well, but he's still a bit stressed from being in the show cage. His face isn't too bad, and he is showing some signs of some feathering around the top of the head, and he does have a reasonably deep mask, but without a doubt he's just too narrow from my point of view. You can see him a little bit better here, so you can see what I mean by has a reasonable style about him as a bird, but I don't think he's going to be a keeper. Just a little bit too small, too narrow, doesn't offer anything from my point of view that I haven't already got, so we'll go in the sales cage. And here's the next bird then on the list, this light green. Again, quite a smallish bird. It's one of the youngest, so it's the youngest of all the greens that I'm going to show you, but is still a fairly small bird. Doesn't have any depth of mask really, and also doesn't show much around the head. The only positive from my point of view of this bird is there is absolutely no opalescence coming up into the face, so it's very yellow around the cheek patches, which is something I always like to see. There you go, you can have another view of him. You can see he sits a bit down on the perch, so could do with being a bit more upright, but like I say, not really going to offer me anything, and another one that's going to go into the sales cage, particularly as he's a cockbird, and I have undoubtedly got some much better cockbirds than this that I could use in the breeding team and in the show team. And there we go, that is the second and the first of the greens. So now moving on to bird 3, this opaline yellowface grey hen. I wasn't too sure about this bird in the last video. He was originally one of my favourites, but didn't really show much about him in the last time I looked at him. However, he's certainly come on again, and as you can see here, stands really well. Has seemed to have grown out of the idea of a hinged tail, nice and big, and is a hen, so has a little bit of style about her. I'm beginning to think that I might just keep this, particularly as she is a hen, and is likely to be of some use to me. She's still quite clean for an opaline, so let me know you have your thoughts on this particular bird. I know previously a couple of people have said that not to keep her because of the hinge tail, but she seems to have grown out of that, or at least more recently is showing fewer signs of it. Anyway, that is bird 3. And this is the second of the greens, another light green, as you can see. This bird's not in the, it's going through a fairly heavy molt, so not in the greatest of condition, but we still get a reasonable view of him. Does have this rather nasty hooked tail. You can see it particularly in this clip here. Face doesn't look too bad, got a reasonably long mask, so if it wasn't for the hooked tail, wouldn't be too bad. But given the problems I have with my stud or my bird so far and the hooked tail, my guess is that this is going to have to go into the sales cage. As we pan out, you can see it here, that horrible roachback type effect that you get there. Still not totally happy in the show cage, as you can see from her tail. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this particular bird. Like I say, I'm not convinced, although it does have some redeeming features, particularly the areas around the face, and not much opalescent again, so quite clean across the ears from what I can see. There you can see the length of the mask on him. As I say, thoughts on that one? Now we have the last of the greens, this dark green cockbird, and probably the best of the greens from my point of view. Not showing any of the hinged tail that the other greens have shown, or certainly the last green has shown. Has a nice long face on him, so a fair bit above the top of the head, and a reasonably long mask. It looks as if he's going to have some quite big spots as well, so bearing in mind that he's still quite a young bird at the moment, so spots do look like they could be quite reasonable. Not too opalescent, coming up from the back into the head, so which is always a good sign, and looks as if he might have quite a bit of width across between the eyes. Could do with standing a little bit more upright, I think, but that may improve as he relaxes in the cage and as he gets older. But as you can see, he probably lays a little bit across the perch at the moment, which gives him the appearance of being quite a short bird. He's not actually that short, he just looks it because of the way he sits on the perch. I'll see if we can get a bit of a close-up view of him. There we can see a view of just of the face. He's standing a little bit more upright now, so a little bit better. Maybe a little bit narrow at the top of the head, but other than that, I quite like this dark green hen, and almost certainly I think is going to be a keeper. As always, thoughts on that one then? So now moving on to the penultimate bird then, this dark factor blue. This was and remains one of my favourites, partly because of his background. He is one of the first round youngsters from the blue we looked at earlier, the new pair we were putting down. So and so for that reason I quite like this one because of his background. I did think this was a mauve, but I've been reliably informed mauve looks much greyer than that, although he does look quite dark for a cobalt. So interesting thoughts on whether he's what he might be in terms of his colour. The wing carriage isn't normally that bad that you can see there. I think it's just where he's gone into the breeding cage, the show cage, and wasn't particularly happy. I'll just see if I can move him around a bit and maybe he'll show up themselves a little bit better. There we go. Yeah, so it not normally leans across the perch, normally stands quite upright, particularly when he's in the nappy flight. Quite a longish bird, looks like he's going to have quite a nice head on him, if anything a little bit narrow, so lacks a bit of the width that Dad's got between the eyes, so I'll have to think about what I'm going to put him to. as with the others, in a very scruffy state at the moment and going through his baby molt at the moment. Be interesting to see how he looks once that cap fully molts out. But like I say, I do like this blue, and it'd be interesting to see how he develops going forward. So, as with the others, thoughts on this particular bird? So here now then is my favourite bird out of all of them. So the last bird we're going to look at, this grey opaline cinnamon hen. She's holding herself a little bit tight at the moment, so I'm hoping she'll relax so you can get a decent view of her once she does relax. This bird was always quite a big bird, even in the nest box, very quickly seemed to outgrow the size of both, or certainly of mum, and is certainly giving some competition to dad in terms of the overall size. My only concern at the moment with this bird is, as it's going through the molt, it's lost a couple of its flight feathers and at least one of its tail feathers, and I'm just really hoping that those feathers do grow back. She's relaxed a little bit now, so you can get a better view of her. For a hen, I just like the face on this bird. It has a very hen looking style about her, so I'm hoping she'll breed okay. For an opaline, reasonably clean. I know not as clean as you'd like them, but she looks reasonably clean for an opaline. I'll just see if I can get her to cross over perches a little bit so we can get a little bit of a different view of her. Not got the deepest of masts, but overall very wide and a nice big bird. You can see here what I mean by the fact that she's lost a tail. I'm hoping that will grow back. It looks like she's going to have big spots on her anyway, so that's one bonus. And there you get a really nice view of her face, and I do like that look about her. And that is all of the youngsters really. Let me know your thoughts on this one and whether you'd have put them in a slightly different order. As always, it's easier to judge them when you're looking at them in person. So there we go. That's all of the young birds looked at. Well, there we are. That's all the young birds back in the nappy flight. Hope you enjoyed that quick look at how they're getting on and how they're progressing over the various months that we've been looking at them. Next time we'll see them will be at one of the barhead competitions, where we'll get the views of the judge and see what order he might put them in. But until then, obviously, as always, if you enjoy the video, don't forget to hit the like button and do subscribe. And until the next video, do stay safe and enjoy your birds.